Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. With me today, I have DJI's newest drone, the Air 2S. Now look, we all know that DJI is a master of marketing. They could sell ice to a polar bear, honey to a regular bear, or drones to me. Now look, personally, I'm tired of hearing every couple of months that DJI released a brand new drone and it's the best drone ever. I think it puts a lot of pressure on creators, filmmakers, and just general hobbyists to have the latest and greatest drone. And look, it's not feasible for most people. These drones are not cheap. They're pretty damn expensive. So if you bought the Air 2 less than a year ago and you're feeling that pressure, don't worry. This video is all about comparing the Mavic Air 2 directly to this brand new Air 2S and comparing the two to see if it's actually worth upgrading to this new drone or if no one's gonna really notice a difference. Now, most things on these two drones are pretty much the same, so I'm not gonna get into those things. Yes, the Air 2S flies a little bit faster. Yes, it flies a little bit better. It does everything just a little bit better. But for the most part, these two drones are pretty much the same. The three main differences though that we're gonna talk about today are new sensors on the Air 2S, the new transmission on the Air 2S, and the new camera on the Air 2S. So let's get into those things. Okay, so let's start off by talking about the brand new sensors on the Air 2S. So the Air 2S has two new optical sensors on top of the drone that are kind of angled forwards. So these are not exactly like the sensors on the Mavic 2 Pro that are located right around here. Those are the infrared sensors that will actually help you avoid obstacles if you're flying upwards. Yes, this will help a tiny bit with upwards obstacle avoidance, but mostly these new sensors are for when you're flying really fast in a forwards direction. So here, let me demonstrate for you guys real quick, and I'm just gonna open up the drone for this. So when you're generally flying your drone, you're going to be hovering like this, and when you fly forward, the drone starts to pitch forward like this. At extreme speeds, this angle is a lot more exaggerated, so the drone is pitching forward even more. It's the gimbal that keeps your horizon level when you're flying, so it makes everything look straight. But the body of the drone is faced like this. So if you're flying the Mavic Air 2, for example, those sensors are now looking downwards. So there's a small chance that they might not be able to see what's in front of them. So that's what these two main optical sensors on top of the DJI Air S2 help with. And honestly, I've never really had a problem flying forwards and being worried about crashing. I think that's the least likely way to crash. If I'm gonna crash flying my drone, it's likely gonna be flying to the side, flying backwards, or like maybe downwards. And just like the Air 2, this drone doesn't have side sensors. Only the Mavic 2 Pro has those. So for me, these two new optical sensors on top of the Air 2S are really an incremental increase. And these sensors alone are not worth upgrading to the Air 2S for. Okay, now let's talk about the transmission. So this is the controller for the Air 2S. Yes, it looks exactly like the controller for the Air 2. There's absolutely no difference. If you look extremely closely though, you'll notice the one tiny detail that's a little bit different. Where it says tripod for the Air 2 controller, it now says Cine for the Air 2S controller. So yeah, that's the only difference externally. Internally, however, though, this controller and the Air 2S are using Ocusync 3.0, which was first introduced on the DJI FPV drone. Now look, when you're flying FPV, you need extremely low latency and a very good clear signal. And that's exactly what Ocusync 3.0 provides. But that's because of the nature of FPV. You're flying extremely quickly through things, around corners, and you need to be able to react immediately on a dime in case something comes up in front of you. So that's what Ocusync 3 is used for on the DJI FPV drone. Now, the Mavic Air 2S has also inherited Ocusync 3.0, and the signal is extremely clear, and the latency is super low. But if you guys saw my recent 1-year long-term review of the Mavic Air 2, which I'm gonna link up here somewhere, you're gonna know that the transmission for the Air 2 over a year of me owning it has been rock solid. I've never lost signal once, the screen has never lagged, and I've flown it almost in every corner of the world in the harshest and craziest conditions that you can imagine, with extreme wind, no signal, no towers anywhere, but I have full GPS bars, and I'm able to see the full transmission from my drone on my controller without any issues. So yes, Ocusync 3.0 is better, for sure. But is it that much better? Sure, but it's not really worth the upgrade. Again, it's an incremental increase. So Ocusync 3.0 alone is not worth the upgrade. Now, let's talk about the cameras. And this is honestly the only reason why you should consider upgrading to the Air 2S from the Air 2. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. So let's start on the video side of things, and we'll start off with the sensor size. So the Air 2S sports a 1-inch sensor. Now, this is a 1/2 inch upgrade over the Air 2, which sports a 1/2 inch sensor. Now, right off the bat, you need to know that this 1-inch sensor on the Air 2S is not a Hasselblad sensor, so it's not the same as what's on the Mavic 2 Pro. This 1-inch sensor was developed by Sony. Now, having a 1-inch sensor gives you a lot of benefits for sure. The Air 2S is going to have better dynamic range and perform much better in lower light conditions. That's a fact, and it literally can't be argued. The 1-inch sensor, in terms of size and how much light it can let in and how much range you'll get, is going to be much better than the Air 2. But if you're somebody that doesn't fly their drone really early or really late or at nighttime, this 1-inch sensor is not going to have the greatest impact or the greatest benefit for you. It's going to be better for sure overall, but it's not that much better in ideal lighting conditions. And to show you guys an example of this, here, I have 2 clips up on the screen right now. One was filmed with the Air 2 and one was filmed with the Air 2S. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to see if you guys can guess which is which. If you got it, good for you. I actually found there to be a minimal level of difference between the 2 cameras. Here, let's switch up the clips now. These are some shots that were taken during regular lighting conditions. Again, I'll give you guys 5 seconds. See if you can guess which shot was taken with which drone. The differences here become even less apparent. So yes, the sensor upgrade allows for better dynamic range and better low light performance. But is the difference that much better that you'll notice, especially on social media? I'll let you guys decide that for yourselves. Now, the Air 2 processes information at 120 megabits per second. The Air 2S processes information at about 150 megabits per second. So yes, it processes more information quicker, which means that your shots, your videos are gonna have more information for you to work with. So let's pop up those clips back on screen that I just showed you guys. And now let's zoom in 200%. And now let's zoom in 400%. So yes, you start to notice a little bit of a difference between the 2 clips when you zoom in really hard. But again, no one's really zooming in this hard and pixel peeping your clips to really notice a difference on the surface level when they're panned out all the way to their regular sizes. Okay, so now let's talk about frame rates and resolutions. So the fastest frame rate at the highest resolution that the Mavic Air 2 is capable of is 4K at 60 frames per second. The Mavic Air 2S, the highest resolution that it can do is 5.4K at 30 frames per second, and it can also do every single resolution and frame rate that the Mavic Air 2 can do. So yes, 5.4K looks better than 4K, but your phones and most TVs today can't actually read 5.4K yet. So no one's gonna know that you're filming in this higher resolution. The main benefits of filming in this resolution will come in the fact that you'll be able to crop in a lot more on a 4K timeline when editing 5.4K footage and lose less detail, which is actually awesome and something that I kind of miss on the Air 2. When I crop into some 4K footage, you start to lose a little bit of quality, but in 5.4K, you have the ability to crop in a little bit more, which is actually pretty cool. But if you're just filming in 5.4K for the sake of filming in 5.4K, no one's gonna really notice, and on their screens and TVs it's gonna look exactly the same. So yes, you are future-proofing yourself for when TVs and phones catch up to that resolution, but for now, nobody's gonna know. Now, my main gripe with the Air 2S camera is when you film at higher frame rates, so anything above 30 frames per second, the camera for some reason crops into the image. So if you're filming at 4K 60, you're not actually making use of the full 1-inch sensor. Now the Air 2 does not crop in at higher frame rates. So if you're someone that films at a higher frame rate and you're looking forward to using the full 1-inch sensor on the Air 2S, you might want to reconsider your decision, because it's not actually making use of the 1-inch sensor. It's going to be cropping into the image. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now at lower frame rates, yes, the Air 2S will be using the full 1-inch sensor. It's going to have more data in the video, so that the video is going to be a little bit clearer, just a little bit better. But like I said earlier, I don't really think anyone will notice on social media, Instagram or YouTube. But just for fun, let's just toss up some clips on the screen. So these are all taken on the Air 2S, and these are taken at 4K 30, 4K 60, and also 5.4K at 30. So see for yourselves if you guys can actually tell a difference between these three clips. And they're also graded exactly the same. Now let's move on to color profiles. So the Air 2 has a normal profile and a D-Cine-like profile, which records in an 8-bit color profile. The Air 2S has H-Log, D-Log, and normal. And D-Log and H-Log record in a 10-bit color profile, which means that it's going to retain a lot more color information. And also D-Log is a much flatter profile than D-Cine-like, so you're gonna have a lot more dynamic range. Now, if you didn't understand any of what I just said, the Air 2S is probably not for you, and you should probably stick with the Air 2. So in the past year of editing Air 2 footage, I have honestly felt a little bit restricted. I can't quite push the colors as far as I would like or make the adjustments that I would like sometimes. And this is not an issue at all on the Air 2S with the D-Log 10-bit color profile. You can really edit however you want, and I found the footage to be very easy to grade. So I'll throw up some examples here of the D-Cine-like and D-Log footage that was recorded, and check out the grades on these two footages. The footage on the Air 2S definitely looks a lot better in my opinion, but again, that opinion is subjective, so that's why I have the two profiles up here for you guys to compare. But there is a small caveat. The way that your footage is going to end up looking when you record in these flat profiles is pretty skill dependent. So you need to know how to color grade. So if you're someone that has no idea how to do this and you're planning on using the footage straight out of the drone and you don't want to make any adjustments and you're just going to be flying in normal mode, you might want to consider the Air 2 over the Air 2S, because you're not really reaping the benefits of the D-Log and the 10-bit color profile on the Air 2S. Also, 10-bit is kind of heavy to edit, so you also need to have the right computer to do that. So just a couple of things, again, to keep in mind when deciding between the two. Okay, now if you're a photographer, let's move on to photos. So the Air 2S uses the full 1-inch sensor for photos, so there's no cropping there, and it takes 20 megapixel RAW and JPEG stills. The Mavic Air 2 has a 12 megapixel camera, but it's a quad bare camera, so it's able to produce 48 megapixel photos through pixel stitching. So it's not a true 48 megapixel photo, but technically it's a 48 megapixel photo. It's also capable of taking JPEG as well as RAW photos. Now, here's a few examples of some photos that I took with both of these drones in very similar conditions. Now, you're gonna notice that they pretty much look the same, and that's because they kind of are. I found the photos on the Mavic Air 2S a lot easier to edit because of that 10-bit color profile and just a flatter D-Log profile. So like the images are definitely easier to edit on the Air 2S because you can push the colors further and do a lot more things. But ultimately through editing, you're able to get the photos to look pretty much the same by the end. Again, that's skill dependent, but this is just showing that you can get a very similar photo quality out of the Air 2 to compare it to the Air 2S. There are also some other differences between these two drones, like the Air 2S has a new mode called Master Shots, which basically takes a bunch of quick shots, combines them together and makes a clip for you. It's also using Active Track 4.0 instead of Active Track 2.0 on the Air 2, so the tracking capabilities are definitely better. The drone will be able to follow you much better and be able to recognize the main subject from a lot farther away. But in my year of using the Mavic Air 2, again, if you've seen my review, I never had any issues with Active Track 2.0. It's actually one of my favorite features on the Air 2. So it's amazing that they only made it better on the Air 2S, and that's definitely a benefit that you're going to reap if you go for the Air 2S over the Air 2. But again, the differences are incremental. They're pretty much going to do the same thing. So the question that you guys have all been waiting for, who is this drone for? If you're somebody that likes color grading, if you fly a lot in low light conditions, and if you want the best absolute resolution that you can get out of a drone camera at 5.4K, get the Air 2S. You're not gonna regret it. The camera is absolutely beautiful, and I've had a lot of fun flying and using this drone. Also, if you're someone that likes to have the latest and newest technology that's out there, get this drone. It's the best that DJI has to offer right now. If you have the Mavic Air 2 that you bought just a year ago, or the Mavic 2 Pro, I would hold off. I don't think that the upgrade is worth it enough yet, and it's pretty incremental, and you can get pretty much the same thing out of the drones that you already have right now. If you have any other drone from the Mavic Air 2 or the Mavic 2 Pro, I would definitely get the Air 2S. It's going to be way better than whatever drone that you're flying right now. For me personally, the Air 2S gets me really excited for what's to come in the future from DJI. If they're able to pack all of this into the Air 2S, then the Mavic Pro 3, which is rumored to come out later this year. Again, no one really knows, they're just rumors, but the Mavic Pro 3 is going to be an incredible drone and probably the one that I will upgrade to from the Air 2. Now, if you guys stuck around until the end, hopefully this video was helpful for you, and if it was, leave a huge like, smash that like button. It really helps out the video with the algorithm and all that stuff. If you guys have enjoyed watching videos on my channel and you find the information that I give you guys on drones and photography and filmmaking and all that stuff useful, then consider subscribing. I'd appreciate it. Other than that, that's all I have for this one. I'll see you guys in the next video, and until then, keep creating.